Hi Year 9s, welcome to another video of Mrs. Williams. This is chapter 4 of Animal Farm, which could have the subheading Battle of the Cowshed. And we begin with the image of Snowball and Napoleon, the two pigs at friends at this stage, who are sending out flights of pigeons with instructions to go to neighbouring farms and teach them the story of the rebellion and the song, The Beasts of England. This is kind of like the idea of spreading the good news of animalism or communism across to other nations, which certainly happened at the time. And they were, Mr. Jones at the time was sitting in the tap room of the Red Lion. That's a pub. So he's just been sitting there complaining about this monstrous injustice. I love those words. The monstrous injustice that these animals had taken over their farm. And everyone else was kind of sympathizing, but at the same time, I like this. Yeah. Each of them was secretly wondering whether or not they could somehow turn Jones's misfortune to his own advantage, which really shows that idea of the selfishness of perhaps politicians, governments, or just human nature in general, basically. And as we continue, we have two farms. We have Foxwood, and Foxwood is considered to be representing like the governments of England and perhaps even the US, but more specifically England, and the other farm, which is a smaller farm, Pinchfield, which was smaller and better kept. People will theorise that this farm perhaps represents Germany. And they really didn't. So Mr. Frederick from Pinchfield and Mr. Pilkington from Foxwood, these two men really didn't like each other. At the same time, Germany and England really didn't like each other. And they were both really frightened by the rebellion on the farm and really didn't like the idea of communism spreading, animalism spreading. And so they really put out negative rumours about them. So what they have here is this rumour that they practice cannibalism. Now, cannibalism actually means people eating other people, or an animal that eats its own kind. So they're saying that the animals were eating each other, and they tortured each other with red hot horseshoes. And so this was, I guess, an idea of the negative rumours or propaganda, anti-communist propaganda that was spread at the time. So equally at the time that the communists are using propaganda, like it's represented by Squealer, using propaganda to really try and paint black as white and show that the pigs deserve the milk, and all of that stuff is happening. So all this propaganda is happening inside the communist cause. There's a lot of anti-communist propaganda happening as well from other nations out of fear, this fear that communist ideas would move to every nation in the world and take over their countries or their farms as well. However, these stories were never really fully believed, and people still had these ideas of this utopia, and these songs were spreading and these ideas were spreading. If you can continue there. And so what happens here, if you see in this paragraph, is the humans were planning a recapture of the farm. Now this is really interesting because at the time in Russia, there was sort of like a civil war, rebellion by they're called the White Army. So they were trying to overpower the communists who took over Russia, and armies from England and from Russia England and from Germany actually sent reinforcements. They supported them through money, through military efforts. And the fact that here we've got the men from Jones, Foxwood, Pinchfield, all of those three combining together to try and overthrow really represents that rebellion that happened in Russia at the time. And the description of the war, or the Battle of the Cowshed is beautiful. It is hilariously funny. When you actually watch the film of it, you see how funny it is. But there's some great imagery here that I wanted to draw your attention to. It was spearheaded, so that the defense anyway, spearheaded by Snowball, who studied military tactics via Julius Caesar's campaigns. And so Snowball is launching the first attack. And there's this great imagery here. So the pigeons, 35 of them, flew to and fro over the men's heads and muted upon them from mid-air. So I think this is kind of suggesting like the imagery of planes and bombs, but it's bombs of pigeon poo. And there's just some really funny kind of imagery. If you read this paragraph here, you'll get this the comedic sense, or that sense of Orwell's sense of humour, his comedy, the image that he's creating there. And there's actually some tragedy that is described as well. Later on, we have a sheep that drops dead. So a sheep is actually shot, and Boxer here, who's defending, striking out with his hoofs like a stallion, and he actually takes him, a stable lad, so a younger boy, on the skull, and everybody else sort of panicked, and they were chasing them around, and the men were gored, kicked, bitten, trampled on. There was not an animal on the farm that did not take revenge on them after his own fashion. So there's that sense of injustice, like the need for revenge comes out, and they really get angry. Even the cat, who was famously not doing any of the work in the harvest. And here, everyone chases all the men away. And I like this paragraph here. I mean, Boxer acknowledges that the boy is dead, but there's this sense of regret which is emphasized here. He says, I had no intention of doing that. I forgot I was wearing iron shoes. And Snowball says, don't have regret. He's saying, no sentimentality, comrade. War is war. The only good human is a dead one. And I think this really shows that inhumane, uncaring, perhaps power hungry, or ends justify the means, that sort of idea there. And Molly was found to be hiding in her room, or hiding in the manger the whole time. And notice that there is no mention of Napoleon, the entire description of that. And then they decide to create the military decoration, Animal Hero First Class, which they give to Snowball and Boxer for their bravery. And they give that award, Animal Hero Second Class, to the dead sheep. And they decide to name the battle of the Cowshed, because that's where the ambush started. And they're going to shoot a gun every anniversary of it. And I just think that's another one of Orwell's attempts at a humour. Major battles have these grand names, you know. All of our World War I, World War II battles, you know, like the Battle of Gallipoli. And this one is called the Battle of the Cowshed, which is, you know, the shack in the farm. And I think it's got a sense of humour from Orwell. So that is the chapter 12. Enjoy. And turning it off.